Greetings, guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette, and this is my channel, Evolve with Monette. I'm a professional intuitive empath for those of you that are new here, and we're going to get right into the subject matter of the video, which has to do with breaking generational curses. Break every chain, guys. It's coming up in my heart and in my soul as I am rounding out an important lesson about generational curses in my family. I wanted to share with you so maybe you can draw some parallels for the work that you might be doing in your own life and why things may seemingly be falling apart so that they can be properly reassembled and put together. The breaking of generational curses very much has to do with the Tower card in tarot, which is a scorpionic energy of death, transformation, change, and complete rebirth. It is where a tower that you've built over many years of your life with ideas of what you should be that were assimilated from your tribe and from friends and family gets struck by lightning, and it seems to be out of the blue, but it's not. It's designed by your angels and ancestors to wake you up, because whatever edifice and structure you are existing in no longer holds you properly or actually aligns with your personal morals and your energies. And so that tower crumbles. And while it crumbles, it sucks. It feels like chaos because it is. It can happen for a myriad of reasons. A tower can come into your life by way of some disease that comes into your life. If you were diagnosed with any kind of issues, from whether it's cancer to multiple sclerosis, that's a tower moment where you have to decide, who am I in this moment? How do I regroup? A tower comes for some of us through relationship destruction, divorces, karmics, and third parties. A lot of us here on this channel have been dealing with that. Towers can come in an illness with a child. When I watch St. Jude commercials, it's why I always give, because even though I do not have children, my heart breaks for the tower moment that comes in when your innocent child is stricken and afflicted. And that's a tower moment. The parents have to regroup. Who are they in that moment? The child has to regroup, whether they have the emotional or mental capacity to. Tower moments are not fun. But what it does is it helps you to identify what some of the things in your life that you may be dealing with. I wanted to just explain that. Regarding generational curses, tower moments come in your life, usually in your midlife, about anywhere from 30 to about 50. This 20-year span will be fraught with a lot of tower moments because you're pretty sure that you've built things up. Your first one happens around your first Saturn return. That is an astrological tower moment built in, and I have videos up here about your Saturn return if you're curious about that. However, this tower moment regarding generational curses usually comes in for a lot of us, like I said, about relationships. And so the beautiful part of the tower is you rebuild. You sift through that rubble and you pick out your favorite bricks, the things that truly align with your energy and spirit, and you reassemble and you build a life for yourself out of the things you want. You leave the rubble and the trash behind you. In my case specifically, the tower moment came in regarding a relationship dynamic. Now, in the beginning, I was very myopically focused, thinking it had to do just with that person and I was very self-focused on that. But the truth was, once I took the blinders off, got out of the pain of it, started to heal and move on from it, I realized that what I was doing was exactly what I had prayed for 15 years ago at my father's grave. Now, here's the thing. I was dealing with generational curses with my father and my mother. The generational curse I actually think I broke, though, has to do more with my mother. But 15 years ago, I stood at my father's grave and I said, I want a portion of your gift. See, he left me with a lot of pain. My father was a malignant narcissist, and some of you guys here can relate on the channel to having narcissistic parents or dynamics. And that's what we talk about at the beginning. What did you learn from your tribe? So I learned and saw a lot of toxic and unhealthy patterns of behavior that I later lived out. I did break a generational curse with my father too, but today I'm going to focus on the one with my mother specifically. When I stood at his grave, I said, you left me with the pain. Now I want some of the promise. It is my birthright. I would suggest, if any of you guys have the ability to do so, confront a parent that's passed over and tell them, this is not good enough. I deserve more, and I want the good part of you, not just the part that leaves me messed up and in toxic relationships. That is a thing he's actually come through with. God bless it. I didn't think I'd ever live to see the day, but he has shown up for me and avenged me and actually parented me, decided he didn't like my partner, which was a nice thing to have happen, and literally saved me from the clutches of someone who was worse than him, more insidious and potentially life-threatening to me, actually threatening my life. Now, back to the generational curse in my mother. My mother, my grandmother, and probably the grandmother before that dealt with issues of infidelity in their relationships, but it was a special kind of insidious infidelity. I'm going to give you two examples regarding my mother specifically that I had looked down on her about, that I had judged her for. Come on, I'm going to tell the truth here today. This is part of breaking the generational curse. My mother told me a story of how she was, and I asked her if I could share this, and she said, if you think it will help, okay. And she said I could. Two things particularly. She told me a story of how she fell in love one summer. My mother is from Antigua, and she was a model at that time, right before she had joined the police force over there. And she was a model, and she modeled in like store windows and stuff like that, statuesque and beautiful. And about 19, she fell in love and had a beautiful summer, she said, of making love and swimming at all of the beautiful beaches. There's 365 in Antigua, in case you're wondering, one for every day of the year. But she would swim at all of the beaches, and they would go and picnic, and they just had that summer love romance, absolutely in love with this guy. He was a good guy, she said, and she adored him, and she was sure that they would be married. Now, here's what happened. As soon, and I mean as soon as the summer ended, he left her, but he didn't just leave her. He got married within a week and a half to 2 weeks after they got into September. So all throughout June, July, and August, they were together. She said she saw zero red flags, had zero idea of any infidelity or anything, because he was lovely with her and spent a lot of time with her and around her family. And then 2 weeks into September, he married someone, and that was it. And I said to her mother, how could you not know or have an inkling that this person was cheating on you or whatever? Because he had to have been if he got married within 2 weeks. He didn't just fall in love in 2 weeks. And the way she told it, her eyes still light up to this day because they had such a beautiful connection, she thought. But it devastated her, and it affected her, and it caused an injury emotionally for her because she didn't see it. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I used to judge her for that. I was like, I just can't even believe that happened to you. It just seems so astronomical, until it happened in its own way to me. Another story, and then I'll tie in the lesson here of breaking the generational curses. When my mother did marry and meet my father, and they came to America to build a life, my father was a malignant narcissist. He was a notorious womanizer. He was emotionally and mentally abusive. He had mental illnesses. He was brilliant in his own way, and a mastermind and a charmer you can imagine. I would say he was a combination on his non-Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde days. When he when he was Mr. Hyde, he was charming. He reminded me of, it's funny I make this comparison now, but Bill Cosby and George Jefferson, that would be the meld. He was sassy, he had attitude, but he also could be funny and enchanting, really. But malignant narcissists often can be. Now we know who Bill Cosby is, so it's funny that was a comparison I made my whole life. But that visibility matters. That's what I saw. So here's what I will tell you. He was a womanizer through and through and through, and I could tell you stories that would curl your toes. But the story that matters today is the one that I saw bring so much pain to my mom's heart, and it's also when she had her wake-up call. My father was fastidious and meticulous and a clean freak. And so my mother and whatever woman he was with, and whatever parts of life he was in, had to clean that house, as like deeply clean it and actually clean it. And that was a big deal for him. And he would clean too. He was very much like hands-on in that way, but he did expect of his woman as an old school West Indian man to do the cleaning, right? But he didn't mind. What I will tell you is one day my mother was finishing up her housework and cooking and whatnot. She was a housewife with him, left her career, as some of us will do with malignant narcs, abandon things that matter to us and try to do something different, but that's okay. And he brought a woman into the house, and my father owned his own business, and he entertained clients from time to time as they were talking about new perspectives and houses that he might build. But this was a woman that he brought in the house and just walked her through and then walked her downstairs and took her out. And my father built the house that they lived in, and it was beautiful. It was a showpiece, still is to this day. Well, I would say the people that have it now, it's not, but it was for many years. And in fact, when I went back years ago to pretend that I was going to buy it just so I could get in again and get pictures because it was on the market since he passed, the realtor spoke very highly of the creative artistry of the narc, right? Of my father, the malignant narc. So, but what I will say is my mother thought it was a potential client that he was bringing through, but it was not. It was someone he was sleeping with. Now, when my mother confronted him and said to him, "Who is this woman?" he said to her, "Oh, she's the maid." That's why the part about him being a neat freak matters here. My mother said to me in jest, "But I thought I was the maid." Touche, Mom. Touche. She said, "How could she be the maid when it's me that's cleaning the house and I've never seen a maid this whole time here and we're married?" Excuse me, sir? But that's the gaslighting of a narcissist. Right in front of her face, he disrespected her. Brought a woman through her house to show his palace that he built on her back, because it was my mom pouring concrete with him and standing in the dust till dark while mosquitoes swarmed and was biting her as she's stirring and pouring, and he's yelling and directing as they erected pillars and they erected walls and they erected glass pane windows, her being the back that he broke. And I mean that actually, regarding the beatdowns to the buildings, okay? He brought another woman into that space, the house that she built. She helped him build physically, actually, the house. And he brought another woman into that space. A lot of your narcissists may have done the same thing with you, a lot of the cheaters in your life. But here's what it means regarding the generational curse. I had judged my mom for not seeing the red flags of that summer relationship that went sour. I never judged her about that one. That one always pissed me off, that second story, because I thought, how disrespectful. But I was proud of her because at least she confronted him, which resulted in her getting beat, which resulted in punishment physically, but she did confront him about it. Here's what I will say to you. In my life, I had to break that generational curse. My grandmother was cheated on by men that would bring women around her. My mother was. It stopped with me. For many of you guys, it may stop with you too. For many of you, you may decide no more. In my situation, a person lied right to my face over and over and over about the nature and the depth of a relationship, a person that didn't have to lie, a person that knew how kind and generous and pretty understanding I am about falling into a love. But she wanted me to accept something. Masked it with the lovely words we do, work wife. Be very wary of the work wife, my friends. I counsel so many people that have fallen into the clutches of somebody who alluded to having a work husband or wife. What I will tell you is, by walking away from the relationship that I was in and saying, "You're a dirty mother, beep, 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 beep," of a liar, by doing that, I ended it. And I know I ended it because my father showed up, her mother showed up. Now, here's the thing I want to talk to you about. If you have a divine counterpart, a distorted counterpart, you're mirroring each other. She often stood in judgment of her mother and her parenting, wished things on her mother that I won't even speak of on this YouTube, did not see the value, did not have compassion, thought less of her, which is one of her favorite things to do. It's one of Narth's favorite things to do with everybody. They look down. And I personally reconnected her energetically, as I am not technically a medium, but people's parents and things do come through. Years ago, 20 years ago, I started talking to her about her mother's wanting to reconnect, and she was pushing it off and not wanting to see how very much alike her mother she was. And indeed, I was like my mother in my blindness to want to be loved. And she was like her mother in her blindness to her behavior. In fact, what I will dare say, though, is as her mother came through and my father came through at the end of that experience where the generational curse was looked at, she had an opportunity to break it. She didn't want to. I had an opportunity to break it, and I broke my own heart. It was like chewing off your arm to get out of a bear trap. It hurt me. It's like cutting off your arm, as we've seen people do, to escape being pinched in rocks as they're climbing. I did the thing that cut me to my bone in order to say no more. This is over. For any woman ever born in this family after this, you will not endure this humiliation. You will not endure this disrespect. As she had an opportunity and her mother sat on that couch there next to her in spirit, and I saw her because they let me see things that week that I did not want to. But I saw her mother being like, "Help her, save her." And I'm like, "Ma'am," I won't say her name, but I have been trying to help her and save her. I don't know what else to do at this point. And the irony of the situation is as she judged her mother, she was far worse than her mother. Her mother at least used whatever generational curses they were working through to benefit her, her daughter. Covers her in the spirit realm to this day to make sure that her needs are met. Used herself and her life force and her body when she was on this planet to make sure that that woman, that narcissist, that covert narc in my life years ago, had a home and a family. It's deep, y'all. These generational curses are deep. And we paralleled each other. She had an opportunity to break out, and so did I, and I did. Sometimes it will feel like you're gnawing your arm off, but I'm telling you this story to ask you, what is your generational curse you're breaking? If people in your life, now Yanla Van Zant does a lot of work about this, our pathology and how it catches up to us. But if people in your life are dealing with a thing over and over and over and over and over, it will catch up to you and you will deal with it over and over and over and over and over. It will show up in every relationship you have. It will show up with bosses. It will show up with friends. It will show up with coworkers. It will show up in lovers until you say, that's enough. The thing that showed up in my life with bosses, friends, coworkers, and lovers was disrespect to my goddamn face. And it will not stand. Disrespect to my mother's face from her bosses, coworkers, and lovers. And I broke it. I used to listen to her talk to me about how she'd have to stay in her place and turn the other cheek because she was being bullied by white girls at work. And listen, I'm not trying to make this about race, but it is what it is. She was here in the 80s, y'all. Be realistic here. And people that thought that they were better and would hopscotch her and take her position and be malice. I broke that generational curse. I dealt with the same thing. Unfortunately, with racism included. Someone that thought that they were better, someone that pitted someone that thought that they were better, a full-ass real racist, didn't listen to me. And I used to listen to my mom and I'd be like, Mom, cuss them out, do this and that. See, I've always been feisty, but I suppressed it in my sickness, thinking that the way to go was to turn the other cheek. But we forget about Jesus flipping the tables. Flip the tables on your generational curse. Flip the tables on the insubordination from a colleague or a coworker or somebody that's saying that what you do as a gift is not valid. Flip the tables on cheatations and third parties and people lying in your face with their work wives or husbands, trying to gaslight you into being duplicitous with their sickness. Amen? Flip the tables. Jesus modeled that for us for a reason, because compassion is nice and metaphysical teachings are amazing and important. But standing up for yourself and knowing when to choose your battles also matters. And you don't break your generational curses without shedding blood, whether it's your own or energetically somebody else's. Off with their heads. Off with the generational curses. Off with the cords. Off with the connections. Off with you being in a diminished capacity because that's just the way your mom, your grandma, and your auntie did it. That's bullshit. Do better, guys. Be better. Stand up for yourself. You deserve it. You can do it. You can be the person that ends the generational curse. I did. And I feel great, like Tony the Tiger great, if you can't tell, because I realized that that's exactly what I incarnated for. And for many of you, the same is true. You are here to break open the yoke, the burden. You are here not to be a beast of burden. You deserve respect and honor. And you will bring great honor and respect on your family's name. Whether you are of a descent of culture where being respectful on your family's name matters or not, but energetically, universally, just as a Homo sapien, put some respect on your own name. And in doing so, you will put some respect on your lineage. If you have children, they will not go through the same thing. You might have to sharpen your knife, and it might be your own heart that you slice, but you will alter the course of your future forever. Break your generational curses open and understand there is a better way to live. It's not all pain and suffering, and you do not have to repeat everything just because your parents weren't strong enough to fight through something. Amen? All right, guys, come back and join me next time, and we will continue to evolve together.